It's my turn to read today's story, and I have chosen Mrs. Armitage and the Big Wave by Quentin Blake. We've already looked at Mrs. Armitage on Wheels, but here's another one. Mrs. Armitage was on her way to the beach. She was wearing her surfing kit and she carried her surfboard under her arm. Breakspear, the dog, ran alongside. There he is. When they got to the beach, they walked across the sand and into the water. "What we have to do, Breakspear," said Mrs. Armitage, "is to swim out to sea and wait for a big wave." But while they were waiting for the big wave, Mrs. Armitage could see that Breakspear's little legs were getting tired. "What we need here," said Mrs. Armitage, "is something to keep a faithful dog afloat." So she swam back to the beach and bought an inflatable desert island. When she got back, Breakspear climbed onto the desert island and they went on waiting for the big wave. But it was a hot, hot day, and soon Mrs. Armitage was sweating and Breakspear's tongue was hanging out. "What we need here," said Mrs. Armitage, "is something to protect us from the sun's powerful rays." So she swam off and came back with a cap with a yellow plastic brim for herself and an umbrella with pink spots for Breakspear. And they went on waiting for the big wave. Now they were nice and cool, but they soon began to feel rather hungry, as you do at the seaside. "What we need here," said Mrs. Armitage, "is a selection of light snacks to keep us going." So she swam off and got a plastic duck and an empty box and tied them together with string and filled the box with tasty items. When she got back, Mrs. Armitage ate an avocado burger and Breakspear had some crunchy dog biscuits, and they went on waiting for the big wave. After a while, a breeze sprang up and blew briskly along the shore. "This is delightful," said Mrs. Armitage. "But what we need here is something to show us wind force and direction." And she swam off and came back with a wind stocking and a line of bunting, and she fixed them so that they blew in the breeze. And Mrs. Armitage and Breakspear went on waiting for the big wave. A windsurfer passed them at high speed. "Hi there, gorgeous," he shouted. "What we need here," said Mrs. Armitage, "is something we can hail fellow sportsmen with." And she swam off and came back with a red megaphone. She brought a motor horn as well, because it's always a good thing to have a motor horn. Then she gave a few shouts, "Woohoo!" and hoots, "Ha ha ha!" and they went on waiting for the big wave. By now, all kinds of fish were popping their heads out of the water to find out what the fuss was about. "Ooh, I hope there aren't any sharks," said Mrs. Armitage, and she swam off and came back with a sturdy boat hook. "Now we can give a prod to any sharks that want to trouble us," said Mrs. Armitage, and they went on waiting for the big wave. And then the big wave came! At the same moment, they noticed a little girl called Miranda, who had swum out too far and was in difficulties. Went Mrs. Armitage on the motor horn. She hooked up Miranda with the boat hook, and on they went. They did a California slither, a Bali swerve, a Waikiki flip, and arrived on the beach just in front of Miranda's parents. They all went to the beach cafe to celebrate. "There's still time, Breakspear, for us to have another go," said Mrs. Armitage. "But what we really need is